Jack Hawksworth, Sean Rayhall, we have you here at Circuit of the Americas doing some sports car racing. You guys have pretty interesting backgrounds in what you're doing. Jack, you've had a breakout year in IndyCar, your rookie year, come up the ladder, now doing some sports car. We have Sean, open wheel background, kind of breakout year in sports cars. He wants to be where you are. I know you're where you want to be. Just tell me a little bit about this kind of back and forth that seems to be working for the two of you coming up in your careers.
Well, I think it's interesting because, you know, there's often people think there's a big divide between open wheel racing and sports car racing, but I really think that there's, you know, especially in the prototype classes, the cars are very similar. The way you drive them, there's not a big difference between driving an LMPC car or driving an Indy Lights car or whatnot. They're both, you know, pretty similar performance-wise. There's some, you know, little differences, you know, power steering and things like that, but you know, quite transferable between. So I think that the style of racing is obviously very different, sprint races to endurance racing, but you can learn a lot from each, and I think that it's, you know, very adaptable. You know, if you're quick in a sports car, you'll be quick in a single seater, and vice versa as well. If you can drive, you can drive. It's as simple as that. And I think that, you know, being able to have these, you know, different experiences in open wheel and in endurance racing is good for any driver, and I think it only kind of, you know, broadens your horizons and makes you a better overall, you know, pilot, I guess.
Sean, you've been doing incredibly well this year in PC. Then this bastard rocks up and wins his first race out. What do you do when you look at someone like a Jack in terms of a benchmark? Again, knowing that this is a guy you want to be racing against at the Indy 500 too. Does it help you gauge where you're at and where you want to be?
Yeah, I definitely think, you know, the quality of having IndyCar drivers come over to TUDOR United Sports Car, you know, that gives us kind of a benchmark of where we're at. You know, like, it was a pleasure to be able to race with Jack because at Indy we had the issue, but race with him a little bit at Road America and so on. So it's a benchmark to see where you really stand up against, and we're all looking at the lap averages. So it's not just about how fast all of us are, but our lap averages and stuff, you know, with the GT traffic. So it's definitely good to see how well-rounded you really are.
What can you get out of sports car racing that you think would help you in open wheel? And Jack, you know, you said that there's a lot of crossover between the two. Are there any things that you bring back from here that maybe have helped you in IndyCar?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is, and Sean just touched on it, is how much traffic you have in these races. In IndyCar, I mean, you've seen the IndyCar races, it's, you know, full on, you know, battling for, you know, a series of, you know, an hour, basically 2 hours, but in this it's actually even more intense. There's even more traffic, there's even more to think about. You know, you're constantly passing cars. I think at Road America there was one point where we were coming through the GT field and we passed like 26 cars in like 5 laps or something like that. So, you know, when you put that in perspective, you know, doing all that racing, all that wheel to wheel, it's got to be good for the IndyCar stuff, you know, where you spend a lot of time fighting and battling as well, and you get so much track time, so much racing, so much, you know, traffic time, I guess, you know, in this series, that it only helps you when you you know, come back to IndyCar and you race those guys.
Looking at what's going on with your team, obviously sports car background with 8-star, again expanding into Indy Lights. I'm a big fan of seeing teams hopefully cross waters. Is that something you think, if everything goes right after Indy Lights, do you think there could be more for you with the team?
I think I have something to offer to IndyCar and sponsors and teams as a whole, just because I am young and I am American. And I see 8-star growing into possibly an IndyCar team one day. You know, we're starting at Indy Lights, and a lot of history with the people who work there in regards to their work in IndyCar. So I could actually see, you know, in 5 to 10 years maybe looking and having 8-star Motorsports being an IndyCar team. But I think it's a perfect start, and I think it's a perfect ground to touch on. And, you know, the people there are perfectly capable, and kind of like Jack said, at the end of the day, it's a race car. We have drivers and we have engineers, and we all got to figure it out. So if you have good people behind you in this, they should be good at that.
Team owners this year, Brian Herta Autosport, he's looking at everything from global rallycross to sports cars as well, something he told me he's looking at. We've had for a long time with young drivers where you kind of stick to one discipline. Is that something you would welcome, Jack, if you're hopping in all kinds of different cars driving for a team?
Yeah, I think some things interest me more than others. Rallycross would interest me massively, and I think there's probably not many drivers out there who would say that doesn't interest them. So yeah, if there's any opportunity to do some rallycross, then I'm in. So we'll see.
Last question is, coming from IndyCar, working in the sports car paddock, Jack, specifically in the PC category, how do you rate the Sean Rayhalls and such, who outside of sports cars maybe folks don't know as much, but what kind of talent is there for you to have to go up against?
It's tough, really tough, especially in PC at the minute. I don't think people realise it, but there's a really good handful of drivers. You've got young drivers like Sean, myself, experienced, really fast drivers like Bruno, Colin, Ricardo, Van der Zande, just really, really good quality field, and it's exciting because although there's only 10 or 11 cars out there, like of the 10 or 11, there's at least 5 or 6 genuine cars which have got a shot each weekend. So the competition's high, and yeah, I mean that's why I'm doing it. I enjoy it. I enjoy racing against quality opposition, and it makes it more special if you're able to beat them. So certainly very high standard.
All right, hopefully we get to see you guys beating up on each other in open wheel, closed wheel, you name it, for many years. Thanks, guys.